you had news yesterday on staff additions as well as coaches being elevated. Should probably start there to help replace Mike Eckler as well as fill the gap there with the special teams roles on the staff. I know your reporting had contract information as well. What stood out, either in terms of the positions that were filled or contract info that came with it, with the news of Josh Heupel's staff yesterday?
Yeah, I thought one of the more interesting things yesterday was, Willie Martinez the last 2 years has been working on one-year deals, and he's now getting a 2-year deal again. Probably reward for how the DBs played last year. Kurt Schmidt got a new 1-year deal as a strength coach. And then, of course, everybody wants to talk about the additions. They had John Bonamego, the longtime special teams coach, former Central Michigan head coach, who's an older veteran coach, to the staff as the assistant special teams coach. They elevate Evan Crabtree, who's been on staff as a special teams coach, to the special teams coordinator. And then, of course, Coach Chop. Everybody knew Coach Chop was moving up into the outside linebackers role. That's been done for a while when Coach Eckler left. And, that's probably the biggest news yesterday. To me, was just the 2-year deal for Willie Martinez, just because he's worked off 1-year deals the last couple of years. And then, just being able to add a veteran voice to the staff, especially with special teams and Bonamego.
What kind of value has Chop brought to the staff? I mean, I know he's been really instrumental in recruiting behind the scenes, but, now that he's holding a on-the-field role, like players that you know of that Chop made a big impression on during recruiting during his time here, even though he was in an off-the-field role at the time?
Yeah, he's done a really good job of cultivating and developing relationships with the current team. Obviously, everybody knows his role in recruiting. He does a really good job with that, and works relationships really, really hard. Multiple times. I mean, last year, I remember going out in February a year ago. Matt Ray and I went over to North Carolina, and Isaiah Campbell, his coach was like, "Hey, you talk to the dad. He doesn't, he's locked in with Clemson. He doesn't want to, have even, anybody come by and talk about anything else. He's locked in with Clemson." And Coach Chop just kind of kept working him. And eventually he decommitted and then, of course, ended up signing with Tennessee. He's been really big. He's done a really good job in recruiting. As I said yesterday in my tweet, he's earned this promotion, right? His work behind the scenes has been instrumental in Tennessee having success in recruiting. He again, is somebody that the players on the current team love to come and talk to and bounce stuff off of, and he's got really good relationships, not only in recruiting but with the current team. And it made a ton of sense for him to move up into this role.
What do you think that means for Robert Ayers? Is he going to be like the new Chop, taking Chop's spot, or do you see any changes with Robert Ayers, former Tennessee defensive lineman?
Robert's worked really, more so under Rodney Garner than he has anybody. So I don't know if his role necessarily changes. Maybe it changes a little bit in recruiting. Maybe he kind of, slides into that role of being able to work recruits. But again, Coach Chop is a guy who's, much older, much more experienced than Robert. So that's, from a recruiting standpoint, I think Robert still has to continue to work that angle of it. Robert's going to know the football side. He's going to be able to coach and help kids develop and that type of thing. I think the understanding how to work relationships, in states and schools and all that is something that he still has to continue to learn, because if you've not done it, if you've not done something before, you don't know how to do it. So you're learning on the fly in that world. So I think he'll grow a little bit in that. But his role, I think, will remain similar, but I think there are opportunities for him to continue to grow. And I think the recruiting side of it would be the place where I think Robert would, stand the best chance to grow going forward.
We're talking to Austin Price of Volquest.com. What do you hear early on with guys on campus about this freshman class of guys on the defensive line or guys up front? Particularly, you mentioned Isaiah Campbell or Marion Dye. What did Tennessee's coaches think about those guys with early impressions and what they might be able to do in their first couple of years on campus?
The early impression, Josh, is physically they are going to be ready, right? Like they're already walking in the door physically, weight-wise, where Tennessee wants them to be. Now it's more about just crafting your body and putting on the right kind of weight, right kind of muscle. But like they're already weighing exactly what Tennessee's defensive line weighed, when they got here, and so that helps, right? They're not having to play catch up. It's not like when somebody walks in the door and they weigh 40 pounds underweight and they've got to throw a bunch of peanut butter milkshakes in their face every day trying to get them to add weight. The biggest thing for them, they won't know till they get out there in spring, is, what can they handle? Mentally, what can they handle? Schematically, with the defense, and how quickly can they help this football team. They don't know that part yet because they've not been to the practice field. But physically, through winter workouts and all that stuff, they are loving the additions of both of those guys.
I have to imagine Tennessee's coaches hope as well. Their arrival pushes some of those young guys that the staff hopes will make a jump. I think you mentioned Tyree Weathersby and Jordan Ross as a couple of names. There are others too, but when these young guys come in that are highly touted and want to get on the field as quickly as possible, that's the competition we talk about so often of guys returning versus guys that are coming in trying to take a spot.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, you're going to push the older guys. You're also trying to push yourself. I mean, they all want to play, and that's what we've talked about, the last month or two is, when you bring in a player and you're investing in them in NIL, you want to try to get them to the field as quickly as possible. They're just burning cash if they're standing there on the sidelines not playing. So you want to try to, develop them. You need them to buy in. And in turn, they end up, if they buy in and they're pretty good, which you hope they are, right? You're based off your evaluations and recruiting, then they're going to push those older players. And so not only are they learning from those veterans, they're pushing those veterans, which, keeps them sharp. And so it's kind of, it's kind of the circle of life type thing. They're going to constantly be pushing those older guys, and those older guys are constantly trying to fend them off. So it's good for both sides when it comes to trying to develop any room, not just the defensive line room, but any of those rooms. Those young receivers will be pushing, some of those guys that have been here for at least a year, if not more, this spring, the ones that are actually able to go through spring practice. So all that youth, has got to be ready to come in and play as much as they can.
I mean, he should be pretty healthy at wide receiver, right?
Yeah, you're just not real deep, Jason. I mean, there's only, there's 7 wide receivers, on scholarship. Is that right? I mean,
yeah.
The number, but you got Brazel. Yeah, that's right, 7. But you got Joakim Dotson's not here for spring, and then Amari Jefferson. I think he'll be limited in some form or fashion this spring. So now you're down to 5.
Ooh.
So Rodarius Jackson, Travis Smith, they've got to come in and hit the ground running, which is kind of like throw them in the deep end, see if they can swim, and then, you need Mike Matthews. He's got to step forward. You want to be the guy, then go be the guy. It all starts with preparation off the court and doing all those things. Go do what, you can do. And I do think when you walk in, it's kind of like we're talking about Ethan Davis on our podcast, which comes out tomorrow. When you you're not going to play, or you're going to play very little, mentally, where do you check out, right? Like, these guys know they're the guys that will be making plays in the fall. So, how much more are they invested mentally? I mean, it's easy to go, well, they should always be invested mentally. Kids, man, they're 19 years old.
Yeah.
Whatever they are. I mean, they're still kids. So, it's easy to check out if you're not going to play. I think that the buy-in from both, talking about Ethan and Mike, will be really great this year. And I think you'll see a different player from both guys. And so I'm interested to kind of see, what we see, over the next few months transpires, because I think both of those guys know they're going to get a real opportunity, and I think they're going to be ready to roll.
Hey, Austin, before we let you go on the recruiting front, I've seen updates recently with, tell me if I mispronounced, but Savion Hiter, the running back, number 1 ranked in the country
Sure.
by On3. Tennessee is one of his scheduled official visits. So I imagine several months to go, his visit to Tennessee is scheduled for June. But here in mid-February, where things stand with him versus some of the other top programs that are recruiting him?
I think Michigan is out in front, but I think the lead is very small. I think that, I think that they're definitely, Tennessee's got a real shot there. They do get the last official visit. I think that they will have a real opportunity to land him. He's got a really good relationship with Darrell Sims. Again, I think, if you're saying if you were going to say there's 4 teams, they're all at 25%. Maybe Michigan's at 27 and somebody else is at 23 and 2 others are at 25. The point is there's not a lot of difference between 1 and 4. And so, they're going to have a real opportunity there with Savion. And getting him back to campus first part of April for spring practice that he's coming in for, I think that's huge. And then, of course, getting him here for that official visit in June, the last official visit weekend, will be massive.
Austin, what else is going on there at Volquest.com for people to check out right now?
Lots of baseball, man. Lots of baseball. Eric Kane's got you covered on baseball, and we'll have you continued coverage of basketball. Tennessee, obviously, in their SEC bye week, and they'll get ready for a big weekend tilt this weekend.